Back to Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom. I'm Brendan Davis, your host, coming to you from Los Angeles, where I am prepping a project that we shoot next week as I record this. And we are very much, I guess the saying, the train is on the tracks and it's picking up steam, and I don't want to torture this metaphor too much, but you get the basic idea. We're freaking busy. So I'm going to do a very, very short episode right now. This is another solo show. Wow, two in the month, right? 2 in January. Well, what I want to do is I want to expand really briefly on something you're going to hear on a show next week. You're going to hear a extremely special Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom on Monday, and I reference the show that dropped this week in that because I recorded that with my guests the other day, and I expected it to be a certain run order up until that episode. We were planning to do, Kevin Geiger and I were planning to do our Fretful Ally Radio Hour again, as we really enjoy doing, but the differences in the time zones, and, he has the 2 young children and one girl's sick, and I'm here with my crazy weird schedule. And honestly, it was just so, we really tried valiantly. Kevin made quite an effort, and we decided ultimately that, let's actually pause on this when we can do it with less stress on both sides. And we can really have a nice, relaxed conversation because they're just both of us have so many things going on. So it's not Kevin's fault, and it's nobody's fault. It's just, it's the universe. We'll blame the universe. But I did want to come on and do a fairly short show here. And here's the gist of it. So I'm going to talk a bit about the guest on my next show, Carl King. And in that interview, I also mentioned this, so I won't kind of, set it up too much right now. But Carl is, among other things, he's a musician, he's a composer, performer, and film and video director and editor, and has done a ton of work. And he, among many, many other things, he composed the theme music on this show, the music that I like so much that, I developed it with him and gave a bunch of references, and he applied all his own wizardry to write it and do it to where it exceeded my expectations. I'm so happy. It's something that people give me a lot of feedback about the music to where, it's something that I'm just really proud of. And the thing about that music that's especially kind of funny is it's also what we're using on How China Works right now, my other podcast, because, we did it initially sort of as a temporary thing. And the more we listened to it, I thought, this is perfect. And Ning my host on that show, agrees. So we've kept that music on How China Works. And I know this seems a little disjointed, but it's going to be a pretty short interview here with myself, interviewing myself. It's late. It's about midnight as I'm recording this right now. And, there's a big change coming, and I guess I'm trying not to beat around the bush too much. But Carl and I talk about this in some detail, but we're going to reference some things in a conversation I was planning to talk about with Kevin that didn't happen. So hence me recording this to plant a few seeds. So as I look, I'm about 3 minutes into recording this, 3.5 minutes in. So I think I'll have us out of here in 7 or 8 minutes total. So just bear with me a moment, if you will. And I guess what I want to say is that part of why the Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom with Carl King next week is so special is because it's going to be the last regularly scheduled episode. I'm going to be doing a new show that I talk about. I announced that on the show with Carl that's coming up, and Big Fish is still going to be available, and I love it, and I love all my guests who've been on the show, and I do plan to put out 1 or 2 episodes a month. Of course, it'll be active. You'll be able to get it forever if you're curious. If you're on the show, or you have a friend who's on the show, or you discover this, and if the aliens discover this recording somehow in the future, there are 100 or so episodes floating around that you can listen to. But the reality is that, as I said previously, my work and travels are taking me other places, and I won't be spending as much time in China. And so I really want to broaden the focus. And so what I'll do is I will have people like Kevin Geiger and Jonathan Garrison, who've been on the show on the Big Fish Side Dish. I will still continue to bring on a China guest probably once a month and do kind of an informal catch up with a good friend like that. And I also will feature, whenever there's somebody who comes my way, who I'm introduced to, or who I discover and seek out, who I think is a fascinating Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom guest, I'm going to track him down and do an episode, and that's where it's going to go. But there are going to be some people who do have a China connection, but they will fit more onto my other format of the new show that I am not naming here yet. That's going to be on Monday, US, when I put that show out. And There's also How China Works, which will be ongoing. And so some people who really have a specific China-heavy life and interest, some of those people will become guests or references or resources on How China Works. Some of those people will find their way onto my new show. And yeah, I hope you like it. I hope everybody enjoys it when they listen to it. And I'm not saying goodbye here. I sort of say that a little bit on the episode with Carl, but as I mentioned, I'm going to be back. I think what I'll do with Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom is probably do at least the Fretful Ally Radio Hour with Kevin Geiger once a month, and hope to have at least one new interview that's a straight up Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom interview with somebody new we haven't met yet. And I may also use that for my solo, China reflections. So if I was in China at the moment and I was catching you up on things that I thought were worth sharing or discussing, I would put it here. And so it's still going to be active. It's just not going to be super consistent. So anyway, I appreciate you bearing with me as I figure this out. Honestly, the new show is going to start airing. I haven't picked an exact date, but I believe it's going to essentially be the 1st of March. So I'm going to take about a month hiatus after I release this episode with Carl, which, as I've said now too many times, will be Monday U.S. time. I believe that's the 28th. So January 28th, I'll put out that episode, and I believe that'll be a really nice coda to the regular run, just the initial run of Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom. And then I'll take a little bit of a break from this. We have How China Works coming out once a week. If you just can't bear to not hear me ramble on a microphone, then and which I do, I hope that's the case for some of you that you enjoy and would listen to just me talk about something for a minute, as long as I can make it interesting. I'm about out of time to do that right now. So let me wrap this up for now. Thank you again for listening. Don't forget to check out Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom wherever you get your podcasts in the future. Subscribe to the show. That way, when I do put a new one out, you'll get it. The show coming up with Carl on Monday, I think it's pretty special. I hope you agree. It was definitely very special for me and Carl, and I'm excited to share that with you. And thank you again for all the support. I will have one more sort of thing to say after the Carl episode as well. But for now, hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you Monday on Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom.